Good evening, and welcome to the Glens Falls Common Council meeting. Tonight we begin a little differently, a little uncommon for a Common Council meeting. We're going to have a Common Council hearing to determine if the building of 16 Kenworthy Avenue here in Glens Falls is one, to determine whether it's an unsafe building according to our code 1309. And then two, if the building is vacant and abandoned according to the New York State real property law. Tonight to discuss the actions that have taken and his recommendations is PJ Consolare. And come on up, PJ, please, our code enforcement officer. You should all have in your packet PJ's documents, backup documents. Start with your findings from this, PJ.
Good evening, Council. So over the course of the last few months, I believe beginning on July 7th, my office was made aware of the property at 16 Kenworthy. We responded to a complaint, a call-in, and we noticed that the building was in a poor state of repair. Doing further investigation and repeated inspections, we have come to determine that it is an unsafe building, and these would be the reasons why. There was solar panels installed on the top of the roof. On my original inspection, there was one still attached. I was informed that it had been that way for years. In subsequent inspections, it came down, but the apparatus that the solar panels were attached to are still on the roof, as well as the wires used to connect those solar panels. We did have DPW go over and try and remediate the situation, but with their resources, they couldn't reach the peak. So some of those apparatus from the original solar panels are still on the roof. I do know that some of the pieces that came off did cause property damage with the adjacent properties. The second finding that we had was that the backyard is so overgrown that it's causing the fences to fall over, and it has ripped the electrical service off the building. On that July 7th inspection, I had National Grid disconnect the power due to the poor state of the electrical service. And then the last finding for it being an unsafe building is just the unsecured nature of the building. I've personally observed cats going in and out through a air conditioner unit, window unit, and I've had reports that I've not been able to verify, but believable, that there's interested neighborhood children in this abandoned, unsecured house.
And so I know you guys have the documents. Any questions about PJ's finding? PJ?
So nobody's living there?
Correct. So as to the second point, which does kind of tie into the unsafe nature, it'd be one thing if the building was in a poor state of repair, but there at least was a homeowner trying to do something, trying to remediate the situation. On my original inspection, I noted that there was multiple dogs inside the house. Talking to the neighbors, apparently these dogs have been there for who knows how long, and someone would come once or twice a week to take care of them. I was able to make contact with the property owner and get the dogs removed, but besides that one phone call to the property owner, I haven't had any contact with the property owner. With that being said, my office did supply two pieces of certified mail, one in August and one in October, for both the notice of violations and the notice of this hearing. According to the post office, the first one was returned due to the house being vacant with no forwarding address. And then the second one was returned in a matter of days for the same reason, with the owner not leaving a forwarding address to serve those notices. And I do have the printouts for both of those parcels. The one that we sent on October 26th, I didn't include in the packet because I didn't think it was going to be returned as quickly, and I didn't have the update by the time I furnished the report to everyone on the council.
PJ, what's the next step? So we'll be hearing tonight, then what happens?
So what my office is looking for, between declaring the building unsafe and declaring the building abandoned and vacant under the New York State real property law, would empower the mortgage company who has communicated a willingness to want to go and perform the basic maintenance, but due to the homeowner isn't allowing them. Like I said, as far as my office is aware, the homeowner's out of state.
Who are the property owners?
Okay.
Who are the property?
Tanya McJarrett
And
and M&T Bank.
is there a Thomas McJarrett?
You're the board of the property, you don't own the property.
Okay. Is there a Thomas McJarrett?
I believe he's deceased. He is listed on the deed, but he is, I believe in the course of my investigation, found out that he had passed before my office started the investigation.
And is the property encumbered by a mortgage?
Yes, it is.
And who holds the mortgage?
M&T Bank.
And did you provide notice
I
of this
did.
hearing to M&T Bank?
I did, as well as the violations when we sent them to the homeowner.
And when you served your notice, how did you do so?
I've had a contact with the bank, so I did provide it electronically, but we also sent it via certified mail, as we did the homeowner.
And would the property owner, our code requires registered mail return receipt requested? Did you do that?
Yes,
And did you also affix the notice to the premises?
I did. It is no longer, the last time I went by, it was no longer there, but we did tape it to the door.
And has 30 days expired since the sending of the first notice or the notice of the hearing?
Yes.
You asked if the property owner is here, right? This is a hearing to allow that property owner to respond, right? So,
I represent M&T.
sure.
That's an opportunity.
Please come forward if you would.
Can I ask Phil a few more questions?
Oh, yeah.
With
that's-
respect to the abandoned property or vacant and abandoned property under the Real Property Action and City Law 1309 Subdivision 2, have you inspected the property on 3 separate occasions?
I have.
On what dates did you inspect the property and at what time?
So the first inspection that I conducted was at 9:30 a.m. I realized after I furnished this report that I did not include the time. I did take a screen capture of the 9:30 a.m. time from our internal system. After that inspection,
What date was that?
September 7th. And again, if there's anyone curious, I do have the screenshot for that September 7th. My office did another inspection on August 8th at 2 p.m. And again, there was no signs of any occupancy or change in the conditions of the structure. The last inspection that we did was for the abandoned and vacant property. Procedure was September 29th at 7:30. And again, there was no lights on in the house, no changes in the condition of the
The
building.
first inspection, you said September 7th, did you mean July?
July 7th, yes.
And
My
on the
apologies.
dates when you inspected the property, was there anyone present or occupying the premises?
The only occupants of the building were the dogs.
Did you make any observation as to overgrown or dead vegetation?
Yes, and that's the primary concern for the majority of the unsafe condition of the building. It's so overgrown, it's causing property damage, and it's starting to pull the electrical power line from the pole.
And what do you believe repairs are necessary to make the building safe?
So the first would be to get any leftover debris from the solar panels off the roof and at least temporarily secure the roof, because I'm sure with the penetrations from the solar panel, there's water and moisture getting into the building. The second repair would be to clean out the backyard of all the overgrown vegetation and make any necessary repairs to the power line in the structure, the garage or the fence. I do have pictures of the fence almost completely pushed over due to the vegetation and and some trees that have grown that have not been maintained. And then the third repair would be to secure the building to make sure it's on a harborage point for pests and to make sure it's on an attractive nuisance to neighborhood youth.
Should the fence be removed?
I think at this point, yes, most of the fence panels have been pulled out of the ground and are just being held up by their adjacent fence panels.
Are you aware of any other animals in the building?
I have seen cats come and go, but other than that, stray cats going in, I'm not aware of any other animals.
Do you suggest the common council make a recommendation that animals be removed in a humane fashion?
Absolutely.
No, that's good. There you go, thank you, PJ. Any questions for PJ before we ask the mortgage?
There appears to be an unregistered car there,
Yes.
and I don't think that probably should be there.
So it's absolutely a code violation of the zoning code, but for the purposes of the property being unsafe and dangerous, I don't feel that an unregistered car.
Well, could we like remove it from
So as a code violation for whoever the responsible party of the property is, but for the aspect of this hearing, I don't feel that my office doesn't feel that an unregistered car meets the level of an unsafe property or building.
Certainly a violation.
Absolutely.
It's not about the unsafety.
Yes.
We have proof that,
Yeah.
we have proof that we posted the sign on the door.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And the utilities are totally shut off, is that
Correct.
right?
Well, yes, I know the water and the electric is. I don't know about the gas. I don't know if National Grid turns the gas off when there's a request from the municipality for the electric. But we had the water department turn the water off, and I had, with the assistance from the fire department on the original inspection in July, had the power removed just because the weather vane attached to the building was in such poor repair.
And other than responding about the dogs, you've had no cooperation at all?
No, every letter we've sent has come back unreturned, and then after 2 or 3 phone calls, it just came up that that number wasn't available.
And PJ, you are concerned though, you want to remove the vegetation from the back that's wrapping that off, not because of the power going into the house, but that it will eventually, could pull the power that's coming from the line.
Correct.
The other way around.
And if left unchecked, I'm not saying this would happen in a week or 2, but eventually it could grow into the building so bad that it could cause structural damage to the building.
Thank you. Sir, would you like to come up?
Hi, how are you doing today? My name is David Gans, JNTC. I'm an attorney at McAllery, Merleaver Pierce. We represent M&T regarding this matter. We've been in touch with our client. According to the RPAPL, we are, as the bank, is required to put a notice on the property to advise of our intent to go into the property. Every time we put those notices on the property, we've been contacted and told that we are not allowed to enter. So pursuant to RPAPL 1307, we cannot enter the property. It is our stance that the only way we could go into the property is if there's a court order allowing us entry, because every time we've attempted, the homeowner is telling us, I'm sorry, you can't go in.
I'm still there.
I'm still there, we're not even, I don't want you on my property. So we're bound based on the statutes preventing us from going in, because as much as we would like to remediate the property, every time we've attempted, we've been told, don't go on my property. So we hope to get this resolved. The foreclosure has proceeded. There is a judgment of foreclosure sale that was granted back at the end of October, and there's a sale scheduled for January. So we are proceeding in obtaining the property through the courts. It's not always the fastest process, but we are trying to move it along, and we are trying our best to try to resolve this matter. Unfortunately, in this case, our hands are tied, and we are unable to resolve it in the way everyone would like. We'll go.
So when you're posting notices on the door, you're getting a response from the homeowner
Yes.
saying don't go in your room. We're posting, the city's posting notices, we're getting 0 response.
I believe that the homeowner has local family, because it wasn't the homeowner who took the dogs out, it was brother, sister, daughter, son, someone who came to the property and removed the dogs. And then it was that individual who contacted my office letting us know that the animals had been removed and hadn't been the homeowner. The only time that my office had any contact was that initial phone call.
But you're getting
But
contacted.
we're getting contacted, once again, for us, if there's a tenant saying don't go in, we're not allowed to go in. So once like PJ advised, he put notices, those notices are no longer on the door. So someone's removing them from the door. There is someone who is checking on the property, whether or not they're maintaining the property in accordance with the town code is separate, but there's clearly someone who's checking on the property and removing the notices that are being placed. We're bound and prevented to go in because of the contact to our office and to our servicers who are trying to secure and maintain the property, saying don't go in. We can't, and we're trying to push the foreclosure along, which is, as I said, once that goes forward, we can then take the necessary steps. But until that happens, unfortunately, there's not much we can do, and we're bound unless we have a court order saying here, go in, and this way we could basically tell anyone who's there, or be directed by the court to do so.
So it's up to the council to consider, PJ has shared with us his information about the inspections to meet those two. One is that to determine that the building is unsafe in accordance to the city code. And the second is to determine is the building vacant and abandoned according to New York State real property law. If the council believes we are, what's next, Karen?
The council has to issue a written findings of fact in order to repair. I did, in anticipation of tonight, draft a written findings of fact. If you want, Mayor, I can read them, and if the council agrees, we can adopt them. Number 1, 16 Kenworthy Avenue, Glens Falls, New York, 12801 is a parcel located within the city of Glens Falls under tax ID number 302.12-20-5. The owners of record are Tanya L. McJarrett and Thomas McJarrett, who we believe is deceased. The property is encumbered by a mortgage with M&T Bank. The City of Glens Falls Building and Codes Department received a complaint that the building or structure may be unsafe. The City of Glens Falls Building and Codes Department has undertaken an investigation of the complaint received and conducted numerous inspections of the property. As a result of these inspections, the Building and Codes Department has issued a notice of violation in order to remedy to the property owners and to the mortgagee, M&T Bank, that the property owner has not made or taken any corrective action, that the City of Glens Falls Code Enforcement Officer issued a notice of unsafe building and structures hearing to the property owners and to the mortgagee, M&T Bank, that the property owners have failed to appear. M&T Bank has appeared by and through their attorney, David Gantz, Esquire. That service of the notice of the property owners was made by mailing a copy of the said notice to the owners and all persons having a legal interest in the property or structure by registered mail on August 8, 2023, return receipt requested, addressed to the last known address of the owner and by affixing a copy of the notice to the premises. That service is complete as more than 30 days has expired since the registered mailing. That on November 14, 2023, Philip J. Cancelleri, Code Enforcement Officer, appeared before the Common Council to provide a written report and testimony as to the condition of 16 Kenworthy Avenue, Glens Falls, New York. The mortgagee, M&T Bank, appeared by David Gantz, Esquire, who also spoke before the Common Council. The unsafe conditions which exist are as follows. Solar panels have fallen off the roof is in need of repair, holes in roof exposing the residents to elements, debris on the roof, hanging electrical wires, overgrown vegetation in the yards, main electrical panel is detached from the residence due to overgrown tree and shrub growth. Fence panels are falling down and encroaching on neighboring properties with potential to cause damage to neighboring properties. Property has cats. The report indicated a strong smell of urine and feces. Based upon the foregoing, the Common Council declares that 16 Kenworthy Avenue, Glens Falls, New York is an unsafe building. The Common Council makes further findings under Real Property Action and Proceedings Law, Section 1309, Subdivision 2. The Code Enforcement Officer has inspected the property on 3 occasions on July 7, 2023 at 9:30 in the morning, August 8, 2023 at 2 p.m., and on September 29, 2023 at 7:29 p.m. On each date, there was no occupant present and no evidence of occupancy of the property, as evidenced by overgrown or dead vegetation, the accumulation of trash or other debris. The property is open to casual entry or trespass. The building and structures appear structurally unsound and has conditions which present potential hazards or dangers to the safety of persons, and the residential property is not being maintained pursuant to the New York State Property Maintenance Code. That based on the foregoing, the City of Glens Falls Common Council declares that 16 Kenworthy Avenue, Glens Falls, New York, 12801 is an abandoned property pursuant to Real Property Action Proceedings Law, Section 1309, Subdivision 2. That the Common Council hereby directs the property owner to make the following repairs to remedy the unsafe building. The roof must be cleared of any and all debris. The roof must be enclosed to prevent further exposure to the elements. The backyard must be cleared of all overgrown vegetation. The fence must be removed. The building must be secured by boarding all windows and doors. Any animals in the building must be humanely removed. All electrical wiring must be secured and/or repaired. That the corrective action must be completed by the property owner within 10 business days. In the event the property owner fails to comply, the Common Council hereby directs said repairs to be completed by the Department of Public Works or third-party contractor selected by the Building and Code Department. That all costs and expenses incurred by the city in connection with this proceeding to remove and secure the premises shall be assessed against the land in which the building is located.
So are there any questions? And then after that, I will ask for a motion to approve this action to remedy this property. Any questions?
Do we know if the taxes are up to date on this?
Typically, when there is a mortgage on the property, the bank pays the taxes to continue to secure their lien. Is that correct, Attorney?
Yes, generally, if we have the first lien on the property,
Right.
we will continue to pay the taxes to
Right.
ensure that they're, I did not look into this matter if taxes are, they usually, as part of our judgment, we also seek for.
Right.
the tax.
Because if you didn't pay the taxes and we had a tax foreclosure, your lien is
Correct.
extinguished.
You're right. So
Right,
as a
so
general
they
rule,
usually
you-
pay the taxes.
As a general rule, the banks will pay taxes that are due on the property in order to protect their lien. So it is my understanding the taxes are up to date. If not, there are times where, I'm not saying this is the case, but there are times where it falls through cracks and we're revised and we step in at that point. But to my knowledge, the taxes are up to date on this property.
But to that point, Councilman, they are foreclosing, so they're not paying their bills, not paying the mortgage, or they wouldn't be that far in that process. Is that right?
Correct, but they're two separate things, meaning
Yeah.
usually as part of the mortgage payment, you have your principal and interest payment and then your taxes and insurance.
Yes.
So we're
maintain
gonna,
that.
but we continue to pay the taxes whether or not the borrower pays, because as the town attorney pointed out, we need to prevent the tax foreclosure.
Yeah, all right. Fair enough.
I'll make a motion, or do you have a question?
Well, do we make a vote?
I would make a motion to adopt the proposed findings of fact in order, and then I can, if it's seconded and approved, the mayor will sign it.
Even though we're in a public, or we're in a hearing? Okay, I just.
It's not a public hearing.
All right.
It is a hearing that's conducted in public, but it's not something that calls for public comment.
Gotcha. All right.
Quasi-judicial.
I'll second Diana's motion.
Councilwoman Palmer made a motion, Councilman Clark seconded. Roll call vote?
Yes.
Roll call vote, please.
Councilman Large
Yes.
Councilman Donahue?
Yes.
Councilman Landry?
Yes.
Councilwoman Palmer?
Yes.
Councilman Lample?
Yes.
And Councilwoman Goodman?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We'll close that council hearing, and we will, it's still Tuesday, November 24th. Thank you. Let's see, so now we open our regular common council meeting. begin with the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilwoman Goodman.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now we open our common council meeting to public comment. If you have a comment for the council, please come up and tell us your name and address.
Good evening, Mayor. My name is Connie Bossi, 6 Knox Lane. I'm here representing the Adirondack branch of AUW.
And hi, Christy Moore. I live in Queensberry, but I'm here representing Glens Falls City School District. And I believe Connie has shared with you an invitation, and just as a follow-up to the presentation that we shared in August, Connie reached out and has formed a wonderful partnership in planning an event for our community that we're hoping as many can attend as possible. And we're looking forward to this being just an opportunity for everyone to become more aware of, yes, thank you, all of the agencies and services that do exist in our community, bringing that awareness amongst each other, but also hoping to identify any gaps that might exist so that we can work together to plan for those for the benefit of our students.
And that's at the library, right?
Correct. Crandall Library from 3 to 5 p.m.
I have been able to confirm that our MSW for the police department will be
Yeah,
there.
that's awesome. That's
Trying to
exciting.
make sure that also John Norton, who works at schools, will be there.
Mm-hmm.
I believe the police chief will be there, and I'll be there as well.
Wonderful. Thank you. We've had over 16 community agencies so far confirm their attendance, so we're really excited about it. Thank you very much for your support.
Are you still taking other people to attend?
Yes, anyone. So right now at this point, we're kind of just widening the net, putting it out to the entire public. But if there's agencies that want to be participants in terms of the activities that we have planned, they can email me directly and we'll get that
Can I
organized.
share that like Head Start?
Absolutely.
Well, to pick up on what Christy said, we're doing a very wide net. So what's happening is we'll do major publicity in all the newspapers. We have a postcard that is going to a wide mailing list to make sure that everybody knows about this. I think it's really exciting. It's given what Christy did to the council last August. I think this is a great first step in having the city talk about absenteeism and talk about student success. So we're very excited. We hope to have cookies. AUW is doing cookies and refreshments, all homemade cookies, which is a plus. So we're really hoping that we have, and we've also invited all the county supervisors, the assemblywoman, and the state senator. So thank you very much. We hope to see you there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Spread the word.
Spread the word.
Any other public comment? You're next. I was going to call you up.
Okay, I beat you.
There you go.
Good evening,
Everybody
council
know
members.
Jamie from Open Doors Submission.
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate the invite. Wanted to just come and share a little bit about Code Blue, about who I am, and just give you a little context for what I'm about to say. So I've been with the mission for about 8 years, coming up on 8 years. Most of the time I was with the mission. I was in program, working with the clientele. It was about 1.5 years ago that I stepped into the role of executive director, and it's been quite a ride, to be frank. We are doing really well at the mission currently. Wanted to fill you in about some of the recent changes around the building. We just recently moved our offices up onto the second floor. We partially finished a small section of the second floor. So we have our administrative offices up there now. That has given us more room to do Code Blue on the ground floor, which I think is really going to work out well this year. We always face the challenge at Code Blue with just safety and sort of separation, if I can say that. We have a year-round shelter program, and we have beds for about 55 individuals in that year-round shelter program. That shelter program is a higher barrier shelter. It's for individuals that want to take steps forward, whatever that looks like for the individual. We want to meet them at their point of need. That's our mission. That's our mission statement, the first couple words in our mission statement. So just keeping those two shelter programs together has been a challenge. Code Blue is a low barrier shelter, and there's not a lot of expectations on the individual that comes into Code Blue. We do offer them services. We offer basic needs. We offer food. Clearly we offer shelter. We offer personal care. If they want to transition into the year-round shelter, they are welcome to do that. We would encourage that, but we do not, make them do that. We cannot make them do that, obviously. So running these shelter programs next to each other has been a challenge. But this year we have a little bit of a separation, which has been really good. I'm really happy about that. Wanted to share also just some statistics about Code Blue, just so that you have some of the data, what's been happening these last few years. So Code Blue 2020, 2021, we had 140 unique individuals with about 1,800 bed nights. Bed nights are just attendances at Code Blue. The following year, 2021, the winter of 2021-2022, we had 189 unique individuals with about 2,000 bed nights. Last year, we saw a pretty significant increase. Last year, we had 229 unique individuals with over 4,000 bed nights. So there was almost a 100% increase in bed nights last year. And I think Code Blue is a program that really gives us sort of a status check on what homelessness is in the area, because people are really forced to get inside during the winter months. And we're a pretty rural community, so homelessness often is hidden. In the more urban communities, you see homelessness, you see it on the streets, and it's very visible, but here it's often hidden. So during the winter months, we're seeing those individuals come in because they have to. They have to get safe and they have to find shelter. So was really struck by that data from last year. And so we're doing everything we can. I think there's some important considerations when it comes to homelessness, just ensuring that a community has all of the systems in place, a healthy system that's collaborative. We have great partnerships in this community, really incredible partnerships. But one thing that we need to focus on, in my estimation, is doing our best to ensure that there's more individuals that are coming out of homelessness than going into homelessness. I think communities get in trouble when they open up a lot of low barrier shelters and people are coming into the community for low barrier shelter, but they're not leaving. They're sort of getting stuck in that landing space. So we've seen a lot of successes at Code Blue. We have a woman who was with us last year at Code Blue. She joined the Life Path program. She's moving out tomorrow. She's got an apartment of her own. She's been with us just about a year now. So we've seen a lot of successes through that program. It is a low barrier program, like I mentioned, and so it comes with a lot of challenges too. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you have for me about Code Blue, about Open Door Mission.
Yeah, Jake, so you just mentioned that young person or that young lady coming in, going into an apartment. Are there mechanisms in your organizations that helps to continue to make sure that she is successful on her own?
Absolutely, yeah. So we do follow up. This individual, part of our program is it's like an 8-step framework that brings a person from homelessness to self-sustainability, but the last step in the framework is serving. So she's indicated that she's going to continue to give back at Open Door Mission, so we want to keep that connection. Relationship is a really important part of helping an individual, supporting an individual as they navigate the system. I think that's something the bureaucracies can't do. It's something we can do, and we really press into it as much as possible, as much as the individual will allow us. So we try to build that healthy relationship, and then, follow-up care, checking in on the individual. We have an individual that does intake and street outreach, so she really is that person within the organization that's really staying connected to them after they leave the shelter.
So you mentioned the increase in numbers. Do you collect other data points when you like where they're coming from and do you see any similarities, commonalities from the years to years, or is there something different? What's
I think it's really it's really complex. Homelessness is complex, and there's often a lot of factors that contribute to homelessness, and we know that addiction and mental wellness are two large factors that are often contributing to homelessness. Nothing that is out of the ordinary. We have seen a wide variety of individuals come and utilize the Life Path program and have successes there. I think frankly, if a person is relatively stable and they're ready to go into the workforce, they do that very quickly. We've had individuals land with us who just needed to get their CASAC certification back in order. In 2 months, they had it back in order. They were working in the field. Off they go. So there's a lot of it looks a lot of different ways. Quite frequently, we have a pretty significant aging population that lands with us, which really breaks my heart quite often to see that elderly individuals coming in and not being able to navigate their way into assisted living care, or maybe being resistant to it. And we're trying to help them, support them as they make that decision.
Are you seeing the population more local, or are you seeing people coming in from outside the area? Where's their catchment area sort of falling?
I think our population is pretty local.
Okay.
Yeah, I really do. Did a community health assessment with Dan Durkee at Public Health, Warren County Public Health, and he had the stat that he brought up. And they had found that 50% of individuals in Warren County cannot dedicate 30% of their income to their rent. 50% of the renters can't dedicate that sort of benchmark for rent where it's really reasonable for them to make rent and have their medical bills paid and have everything in order. So that really speaks to sort of the precipice many are sitting on, those that are renting in the community, and some of the housing instability. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
I was going to ask, you mentioned the increase in numbers and the concern about more people coming in than going out. Are you identifying specific things that are missing in the community that are causing some of these barriers?
I think there's a great group of individuals that does addiction treatment. We have a great relationship with Baywood Center. They come in, they do drug and alcohol assessments every other week, so we have that service. I think the gap would be around the care and mental wellness. It's just seeming like it, and it's getting better. It's gotten better in the last few years, but for a while, or last few months, excuse me. But for a while, it was taking people 6 months to get an appointment, to see a counselor, to get diagnosed, that's hard for an individual that's wrestling with a really significant mental illness, for them to be waiting 6 months and just sort of in pause. That's really hard.
So the mental health provider shortage is one of the biggest problems, and you mentioned affordable housing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
I'd like to make a comment if I could.
Yeah.
First of all, I'd like to congratulate your organization. I remember the day you were on South Street.
Sure.
When people lined up on the sidewalks with young kids. And I think it was at that point in time that people in this community realized what homeless individuals look like, who they were, what they dealt with on a day-to-day basis. I know you had an uphill battle. I was involved in the homeless business for about 10 years. Nobody wants homeless shelters in their backyards. Nobody wants them in their communities because supposedly, if we build them, they will come. And I'm glad to hear that you say that we're maybe on that road to taking care of mostly local individuals. I just recently had an opportunity to visit your facility. The last time I was in there is when just after it was the furniture store. And I was absolutely blown away by what you've done there. I would happen to be there because you worked in conjunction with Abraham Wing and the Glens Falls Backpack Program. And that's very good for you to do that. So I just have one question, and I'm just trying to relate it to what I remember. They still conduct a point-in-time count in January.
Yep.
I'm just curious what that number is these days.
Yeah, so I think it's been hovering around 30 for the last couple of years. So we just measure really who is in our Code Blue shelter and who is in our long-term shelter. That said, our number will go up significantly this year because last year we were just getting our feet on the ground with the year-round Life Path shelter. We had about 5 to 10 individuals in the Life Path last winter at that time. This year we have 30 people in the Life Path, and we've been taking that slow, sort of measured approach to adding more individuals in that. So this year I would estimate it will be around 60. 60 individuals.
Yeah. Listen, thanks for the good work you do.
Thanks, Rob. Appreciate
will see you Thanksgiving morning.
Yes,
And I'm
please.
gonna give it a shot, see if I can run a 5K. It's been a few years.
All right.
See.
I'm happy to join you if anyone else wants to
And
join.
you Carry me this.
I want to see that.
Yeah, good, thank you.
Get the camera on.
And Connie's around. We will see you, all right?
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a great night.
Okay.
I wasn't planning, but I just wanted to add a follow-up. I also handle the homeless students for our school district, and our numbers are significantly higher than they've ever been. We currently have 80 students that qualify as homeless, either living in a motel, doubled up with another family member, or some are even sleeping in cars. So this issue is very close to home and impacting us as a district, as we're obligated to transport students if they're within 50 miles of our school district. So it's a big challenge that we're up against.
Did you say 80?
Correct.
In middle and high school?
K
or-
through 12.
K through 12.
Mhm. Yes,
So some of those 80 are actually elementary.
correct. Yeah, we have many families living in motels, either placed by DSS or self-pay, paying $400 a week to stay in one room.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I think next we go to committee reports. Councilman Clark.
I have none.
Councilman Downey.
Nothing to say.
Councilman Lang.
No report.
Councilwoman Hall.
The Recreation Committee met yesterday to discuss our priorities for the remaining ARPA funds dedicated to recreation. We have a good working list, and we'll hopefully talk to the rest of the council and the mayor about that to decide what we'll fund. But all the rest of the work has come along very nicely. The bleachers are in, so that's all wonderful news. Building and codes didn't meet, but you will see on our agenda tonight resolution to set a public hearing for the draft of our current noise ordinance.
Thank you. Councilman Lang.
Nothing to report.
Councilwoman Good. Moving on, our voice vote has two resolutions. One is a resolution to approve the minutes of the October 24, 2023 meeting of Glens Falls County Council. And two is a resolution to approve the clerk's October 2023 monthly and PDD reports.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes, thank you. Under roll call vote, I would like to pull, resolution 9 is a resolution for two vehicles for the fire department. I've asked Chief Motor to come and talk to you about that, so you can ask questions, and we'll just pull that for discussion. That's resolution 9. Is there any other resolutions the council would like to pull for discussion? Not hearing any. Resolution 3, under roll call vote. Resolution 3 is to increase revenue line A 009999-1589 miscellaneous public safety income by $4,112.35 and increase budget expense line A 2310-1100 police department overtime by $4,112.35. 4 is a resolution to approve change order number 2, bid CGF 23-04 athletic court construction project specifically for Murray Street Park portion in the amount of $5,454 and has been reviewed and approved by the city engineer. As previously approved, the monies for this project from ARPA should increase revenue line A 009999-4089 ARPA by $5,454 and increase recreation expense line A 67020-4476 construction is to move forward with the payment towards the project. The grand total for this project will now be $718,849. 5 is a resolution to set a public hearing to be held on Tuesday, November 28th at 7:20 to consider the ratification of the 2024 City of Glens Falls General Fund and Water and Sewer budgets and to authorize the city to post notice for this public hearing. 6 is a resolution to set another public hearing for proposed local law and we don't know the number yet, 2023, on Tuesday, November 28th at 7:25 to amend Chapter 45 Noise Control based on recommendations of the Building and Codes Committee and authorize the city to post notice for the public hearing. 7 is a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into separate contracts with RMB Heating and Cooling, LLC, to provide mechanical and plumbing construction and fire protection construction components of the Market Center project respectively. 8 is a resolution to decrease expense line A67020-1000 personal services by $14,000 and increase expense line A67020-2500 other equipment by $14,000 for recreation department expenses. 9 is a resolution to increase revenue line A009999-4089 ARPA by $129,425.
This is the one.
Oh, sorry, my group. 10 is a resolution to approve the City of Glens Falls Community Development annual payments in the amount of $1,140. 11 is a resolution to approve, retroactively approve an encroachment permit as approved by Mayor Collins on October 24, 2023 for Richard Patterson, owner of 20 Ogden Street, Glens Falls, to block off parking spaces for a construction trailer and truck in front of 20 Ogden Street from October 18th through November 15th, 2023, with the understanding areas to be cordoned off to allow for pedestrian access on the sidewalks according to program regulation. 12 is a resolution to increase sewer budget expense line sewer expense line G78130-4400 contracted services by $35,119.50 and increase sewer fund revenue line G099999-5031 interfund transfer by $35,119.50 and increase water fund expense line F78130-4479 contracted services by $54,264 and increase F099999-5031 interfund transfer by $53,246. $246. 13 is a resolution to approve Glasgow UV as a sole source provider to retrofit the UV system at wastewater treatment at a cost of $300,000 of ARPA funds to issue PO and enter into a contract before the fiscal end of 2023 to avoid the price increase of what would be incurred in 2024. 14. Yes?
Resolution 12 is, all right, I got it now, sorry, go ahead.
No, you're
Because
all right.
I just didn't know if it's 246 or 264. Go ahead.
All right,
Sorry
I got
about
it. 264.
Right.
And the other one, 246, is that?
What's the law?
Did we,
Or 54, 264, or 53, 246.
Yeah, what's the law? What's the...
Ooh. Do I need to pull it? Wait, let's look at the back. Excuse me one moment. Sure, it is just a typo, but we need to know which one is right. Glasgow UV. Yeah, it's, so the $54,264, an increase by $54,264. So that's it, the 53 is wrong. 53. Both are the same number, yeah. Okay.
Good catch.
Thank you, good catch, Ed. Thank you.
Your eyes are better than mine.
Yeah. 14 is a resolution to approve an additional increase from $1.2 million to $1.8 million in bonds to add contingency line to cover any unexpected costs under the Water and Sewer Board recommendation associated with the cost of the sewer separation at Elm Street in their streetscaping project. 15 is a resolution to approve Creighton and Manning's LLC supplemental agreement number 2 for a total cost of $304,500 to to provide construction administration inspection services in regard to the DRI streetscaping project with positive recommendation of the city's engineering department, and also authorize the mayor to enter into contract in a form approved by the city attorney.
You missed 15.
That is 15.
No, Barton was 15 is a resolution to accept the proposal by Barton and Judas to complete different. This is
15.
All right, 15. 15 is a resolution to accept the proposal by Barton and Judas to complete the surveying, design, and on-call construction services for the installation of a new sidewalk along the south side of Goodwin Avenue, and authorize the mayor to a contract approved by the city attorney. 16 is the resolution to approve Creighton and Manning's LLC supplement agreement for number 2. I'm sorry, I had Chip is on vacation, and I have an older version. Supplemental agreement 2 for a cost of $304,500 to provide construction, administration, and inspection services in regard to the DRI streetscaping project with a positive recommendation of the city's engineering department. Also authorizes the mayor to enter into a contract in a form approved by the city attorney. 17 is a resolution to approve DPW purchases of a 2023 Ford F-350 regular cab dump truck that was bid through 1379 New York State OGS vehicle mini bid solicitation number 23166 from Metro Ford Sales Inc. for the amount of $75,000 and to be leased financed with 4 payments of $21,499.50 with a $1 buyout at the end of the lease. 18 is a resolution to increase general fund expense line A1149904352 DPW motor vehicle repair parts by $11,000 and decrease general fund expense account A45142-2400 snow removal highway street equipment by $11,000 for an additional repairs to motor vehicles that are needed. 19 is a resolution to increase revenue line A009999-4089 ARPA by $66,245.26 and increase expense line A11490-2520 garage shop equipment by $66,245.26 to fund the purchase of a heavy-duty vehicle equipment shop lift for the DPW to safely service large vehicles as attached. 20 is a resolution to enter into a memorandum of agreement with the Capital District Transportation Authority for the transfer of the public transit service operation responsibility and capital asset ownership from Greater Glens Falls Transit, City of Glens Falls to CDTA. Also that the GGFT/mayor are authorized to transfer the eligible existing and future public transit funding grants and appropriations to CDTA for the purpose of providing public transit services to the Glens Falls urbanized area. 21 is a resolution to approve the warrant. Do we have a motion for a roll call vote?
So moved.
Do we have a second? Roll call vote, please.
Councilman Clark.
Yes.
Councilman Donovan.
Yes.
Councilman Landry.
Yes.
Councilman Thomas. Councilman Marco.
Yes.
And Councilman Gooden.
Yes.
Thank you. And so now under roll call vote, let's look at resolution 9. And I've asked Councilman Lappin had some questions as to why we weren't buying electric vehicles. I know that you, in the budget meeting, had this conversation with Deputy Chief Modar, but I wanted to come and, as I asked more and more questions to understand, I've asked him to kind of show you what there's 2 separate vehicles. One we're just going to call the fire inspection vehicle. Come on up, please, Deputy Chief. So one is that the smaller vehicle that primarily would do would be doing the fire inspection. And so, Chief, can you hand them what their 2 options are? Your recommendation in Resolution 9 is about a total between the 2 vehicles. So I wanted to break it down for you so that you can all have a discussion about it.
Get back to it.
council packet. Yeah.
Should have also, just wanted to make sure everybody was covered.
So which vehicle do you want to speak about first, Chief?
Can we address questions, I guess? And then we go from there?
Sure.
If there are specific questions in general?
Well, the specific question that I have is that there's a state directive to decarbonize our fleets and adding vehicles that aren't required to be gas powered is at odds with that directive from the state.
Correct. And I'm familiar with that particular mandate that the governor has posed on the whole state. I've also reached out to different entities in the state that I know that deal with purchasing vehicles on the emergency side. And the document that I gave you there was something that they sent back to me. I could not find any further information in that regard as far as the emergency service vehicles being exempt from that particular mandate. But that is what they sent me through the state.
And also the mandate is to reduce carbon by 2030, which is not.
2035 is
By
what it
2030,
is
it should be
for
reduced by.
certain vehicles, and then for heavy vehicles by 2040. By 2050, 100% of the state should be at zero emissions.
Right,
is
but
what
by
that rule is
2030,
now.
we're supposed to reduce our municipal carbon emissions
Footprint.
by 50%. So that's quicker
So-
than the things that you have listed on.
Yep. So to get to the point where we are now, during our meeting, we discussed that of purchasing hybrid vehicles. We discussed also the fact that given the way the manufacturers and the union strike that was going on, that we needed to make a purchase as quick as possible in order to avoid some of the things that I'm getting ready to talk about. One of them being the vehicles that I proposed us purchasing at that meeting are no longer available, just because, as we discussed, they were going to go like that as soon as that strike kicked in, and they did. What has happened now is that there is the program is at the end of every year you put in at a certain date, which is going to be next year in February, for your order. Your order is then canvassed, made, and now you won't get that particular vehicle until August or September of next year, given if everything goes smoothly. As we know, the economy is very up and down at this point. So purchasing a vehicle that's 100% electric or even a hybrid right now, if you ordered it, you can't order that vehicle until February of next year and won't get it until later in the summer of next year as well. With the fact that we are currently without two of our main vehicles, and one of them that the fire prevention officer uses is not mechanically sound, we're left with utilizing one of our utility vehicles that we also use to tow our trailers and move our equipment around, because that's the only vehicle that can do that. So right now we're kind of in a crunch, if you will, of making a purchase that fits the needs that we have currently, just like we did with the ambulances before. So understanding the mandate that's out there, we still have some time to purchase other vehicles that will meet that mandate. The electrical vehicles are becoming more useful. They're growing in their standards, they're growing in their usefulness, they're growing in their power, durability, all the above, because they're being mandated to do so as well. Because across the nation, they're being asked by, as you say, 2035, 2050, everything is going to be electric. So that scenario of everybody having an electric vehicle, and even vehicles who have been tested and used and abused, if you will, especially in the fire service, will be experienced enough so that we can say, and I can ask people who actually do this from a day-to-day, that yes, this is a vehicle you guys should get. It's been tested, it will do everything that you need. Currently, I can ask those questions to these fleet salesmen, and they hesitate because there are still some unknowns for the vehicles in the fire service currently. Yes, there is a fire truck that they have designed and built or are selling by 4 different manufacturers.
We're not talking about fire trucks right now, though, right? We're talking about.
We aren't, but I'm using that as an example.
But
That there is
oranges then.
electricity in the fire service, and it is coming. So these are entities that are being used and
Okay, but
accepted.
we're talking
in the
about
service.
2 specific vehicles,
Yes,
and neither of them are fire trucks.
okay,
So could we stick to that?
sure. Okay, so what we would like to start with is the first vehicle that I've identified as the chief officer's vehicle. Okay, Chevy Tahoe. This is a vehicle that is used by many in the fire service, chief officers that they utilize on the fire ground. One, because it is a vehicle that can carry personnel if needed. It can tow equipment if needed. It also serves as a base, if you will, a mobile office for the officer. If you're on scene of a structure fire, or in our case, we do a lot of specialty rescue events, hazmat calls. That becomes my mobile office, or the officer on duty, his office, where he can pull out books, diagrams, pre-plans, numbers, entities to call. It also has ability to be the IC and create an instant action plan while you're on scene. The ability to be accountability for the members that are there, so that everything that is going on that fire ground is being diagrammed and written down so that you know what is going on the scene. So
I understand that.
currently,
what I don't understand is how an EV would not be able to.
Currently, there is no EV that matches the Tahoe's status and ability to get without creating extra monies and funds being spent. And I will get to that in a second, okay? There is no comparable purchase in the EV vehicle right now. The only thing that would even come close is the F-150 Lightning Pro, and that is substantially more and will cost more to set up. And I've given you that in your bracket, and we can cover that if you want right now.
I would like to have a chance to review this, so I don't know what the feeling of everyone else is, but my concern is that we're investing in something that we're gonna have to replace within not many years, because you're saying 2035, but I'm hearing 2030.
You will not have to replace it. You cannot purchase another gas vehicle after a certain date. That is the mandate. Not that you have to get rid of anything. You will not be able to purchase is what the mandate is after 2035.
I'm talking about a different mandate than what you're talking about. You're talking about a purchasing mandate. I'm talking about a mandate about.
You will not have to get rid of your
You
vehicles.
will have to, at a certain point, get rid of greenhouse gas emission equipment in order to meet the goals of what has been set out from all. That's my concern.
So
So Chief-
are there even vehicles right now that would meet our needs, that are electric?
Right now, it is the Ford 150 Lightning Pro.
Okay.
I have that particular item in that sheet that I gave you that I've gotten pricing for from Nielsen Ford.
So what's the difference in price between?
If you see what the bottom tag price there is, it comes with the lights and everything to make it an emergency vehicle. That price is at $71,358. Okay.
And then to add.
At the bottom of it, just like I had with the Tahoe, there are certain things that would need to go with that cost. One being the Knox box, which is included in the Tahoe, the mobile radio, $1,500, which is included in the Tahoe. Given that this is a pickup truck, my mobile base that I would be running out of that Tahoe now has to be either run from the crew cab of that pickup truck, which now negates me having a back seat to carry anybody in. So now it's only a two-person vehicle.
where you're trying to utilize a vehicle that is going to be useful for the fire service no matter what we do. So now everything's getting put in the back of that pickup truck, if you will, which will require a cab to go over it and the pull-out station in order to be able to work out of there. As you see, that total cost there is about $10,500 if you put those two together, with a total cost of $13,000.
Where do you see that?
So it's 84,000.
You're looking at this.
358 for the electrical.
Right here.
For the F-150 Lightning, yes ma'am.
And the Tahoe is 68,815 fully equipped.
Yes ma'am. Yes ma'am.
So $16,000
Yes,
approximately.
approximately. Yeah.
And I didn't know this, but you told me today that for every fire, if there's a fire at 3 in the morning tomorrow, or tonight, and you have a chief's vehicle, you normally would keep your equipment in that, and this whiteboard and your operations area there.
Correct.
You keep all that in that vehicle. So then you go to that, you're gonna arrive later than everybody because your home right isn't in Glens Falls.
Correct.
You then run an operation of that, supervision of that event. You record who's there on what do they call it, who the other
Mutual
people
aid.
call mutual aid.
Yeah, EMS standby for our
who's,
guys.
Who's going into what entrance. So I didn't even know that existed that's your role to do with these fires. If you did that, you could do this out of a Ford F-150. It would be a pain in the butt, but that's the reason you got the cab on the back of the Ford 150 that you would do it. You also would use this vehicle to, if there's confined space thing, right? And so you would then take 4 guys and put them in the back of that Tahoe and go to that confined space thing.
Correct.
If you had an electric vehicle and you would need to, you could put their equipment the way back, you could still use it for 4 people, right?
Yes. Yes.
So what
Yeah.
other
That's
limitations
the
that
positive
Ford
for
F-150 have, that the Tahoe that you are recommending to buy, besides now you got 12,000, it looks like roughly 16,000 difference? Yeah, the difference in prices. So it's a little less useful as your command center, but it's usable. What other things are less desirable about that vehicle?
There are still some nuances, given the fact that we live in a north country, that because our vehicles stay outside 100% of the time during the winter, and I know this because I did some research because I have an electric vehicle. Once I got this position going from a 24-hour shift every other 3 days to every day, that you lose up to 30% of your battery power during cold days. And that's driving back and forth, staying out during the day. So with a vehicle that's going to be constantly plugged in, whether it's utilized none at all during the day or even driven, you're constantly being measured by the available source of power that you have in that vehicle. And in the wintertime, that becomes very scarce given the cold temps that we do have here.
If we have a charger at the fire department and it's parked there all day.
That stays parked.
You're saying, and even if it stays parked, it's fully charged. You're saying that a cold electric vehicle
will take off the battery.
Is 30% less effective
Yes.
than a warm?
My Mustang will lose 30% of its power throughout the day by the time it's all said and done, from time I unplug it to the time I plug it back in, because of the coldness of the vehicle. The other exception that comes with plugging in the vehicle, they ask you not to charge it up any more than 85%. So if a vehicle is only 300 miles at max and you're only charging it at 85% because you want to elongate the battery life of a vehicle, that means you have less miles that you can travel. So if you're towing, if you're carrying equipment, all that is covered underneath that particular mileage. So say for instance, it goes from 300 now down to 210, and you're carrying weight and it's cold outside. Now think of what you really have as a source of moving and going back and forth to. So those are kind of the nuances.
2 square miles of the city, so why wouldn't 150 miles?
We also answer mutual aid calls in the county, our special rescue, hazmat calls, confined space, all that stuff.
How many times do you?
Probably about 30% of all calls can be mutual aid to go to these different
How many
events that we're
times in all your
contracted.
mutual aid calls are you driving more than 100 miles? in that?
More than 100 miles round trip?
Yeah.
Nothing as of yet, other than going to training.
So
Yeah,
you're concerned it's not as effective.
correct.
But you're not answering calls on a regular basis, so, but even if it was at 30% less,
Right.
then it would be.
And again, those are-
unreasonable. You're just worried.
Correct. Those are some of the nuances, the newness of having a vehicle and the relation of the mileage versus the cold, the weight, all that stuff, and being used in the fire service. It's still an unknown. And those are the things that I have asked the salesmen about, and they kind of say, don't know yet, because we haven't got them out there. They've used them in the police department, but the police department uses them to go to a call and back and go call and back. They're not carrying heavy stuff as we would and being loaded down constantly.
Well, CDTA's got a number of electric buses that they've had in regular service
Yep.
for a couple of years now. Boulder, Colorado, police force has interceptors that are
Yep.
Teslas that they've had for 5 years or so.
And FDNY has now purchased a bunch of vehicles for the Teslas and even the Mustang, if you will, for their PD as well. So, yeah, and like I said, it's becoming more and more, but right now there's not a tested measure for the fire service. And so that's my only consideration for purchasing a vehicle, if you will, $80,000 for still some unknowns and longevity of that vehicle. Not opposed to it, just saying that the ability to purchase something and feel comfortable of it lasting as long as we need them here in the city and to be able to be utilized for multi-purpose is very important for us.
So how long does it take to charge?
The quick charges that usually come with a vehicle, the one that I have currently plugged in at home, it takes about an hour for 30 miles.
So that's
Is what I have.
that would be 240 volt.
It's actually, you have to hook up a 60 volt amp or 60.
No, I mean, it's
hook up
like
for it.
110 or 220.
48 amps on demand is what this particular item is.
Yeah.
Sorry, I did not get.
So it's not.
But
like
it's
fast
gonna-
charging like you have at where
Yeah,
the exit 17. So that's another opportunity.
But there are
if
grants.
We are kind of. Yeah.
Yeah, there are grants for that right now
You can
that.
ask for a grant for a fast charging vehicle.
Yeah, those are coming out left and right these days because the state wants you to have it, so that's what they're doing for
If
municipalities.
you ordered the gas vehicle that you're talking about, okay, so
You don't want that.
now we're just talking about the chief's vehicle.
Yes, sir.
You're talking about getting that fairly quickly.
Yes.
When would you get that vehicle?
Currently, it's still sitting underneath the letter of intent, knowing that I had this meeting tonight with the common councils. Yes,
Yeah, we're talking about the Tahoe. So if he gets the Tahoe, when, just give me a rough date.
tomorrow,
When you get the vehicle?
tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Okay. So when would you get the vehicle if the council decides to get the Ford truck?
We're looking at August, September of next year.
And the difference again is
16,000.
16,000 and change.
Tahoe was 68,815, and the fully loaded F-150 is 84,358.
So can you now talk about the other vehicle, which we talked about, I'm sorry, any other questions before we move on to a different vehicle?
I do have something for Chief. So, first of all, is the 150 four-door or two-door?
It's a four-door crew cab.
It's a four-door.
It kind of has to be to kind of get what we need and move people around when a call happens.
Right. I'm very familiar with these types of vehicles that are used by all the volunteer fire companies that
Yep.
surround us and beyond.
Yep.
And I think that the idea that we need a command center, no matter what it is we're at, whether it's at a fire or a rescue or whatever, is absolutely necessary. I also know that in most of these command centers, they leave these vehicles running. So now we get into this debate about, and I'm not trying to talk against green vehicles, but I am, because I'd rather know not how many miles you can drive with these things on a battery charge, but how long can they?
The standby, if you will.
Right.
And that was some information that I'd even asked today, because that was something that I didn't know. Even in my vehicle, I still can't find what the standby power is if I just leave it on. My wife actually left it on for like 3 hours without her even remembering that she turned it off. I didn't notice any battery loss in it, but I also didn't know what it was when she actually got out of the car. So they say it lasts a while. That time, I don't know. And if anybody knows that answer.
Yeah, I've got 2 electric vehicles, which is part of the reason that, you know, and I'm glad to hear that you have one yourself. So you know that some of the things where people go like, oh, where do you have a lot of fun sitting in these, you know, on the North Way for, you know, it's like, I lost like 5% over 5 hours.
Yeah.
You know?
Your vehicle is going to be intercepted, correct?
It will be the Tahoe.
Oh, the Tahoe.
Yes, sir. The first one.
Or the Tahoe or the truck, depending on which they decide.
We can't be the only fire department to have ever purchased or considered purchasing one of these, right? Have you talked to other fire departments?
The Tahoe or the
An
150?
electric vehicle.
Currently, I do not know of anybody. I've looked. I was on the web all day today. I talked to the salesman in this regard. And again, it's...
Could we like reach out to NYSERDA? I'm sure NYSERDA has a lot of...
NYSERDA makes the rules on certain things, but sure, we can actually, whatever will appease, but...
So if you do, you're gonna lose that Tahoe.
Correct.
If you don't pass this resolution tonight. But you might get another Tahoe next week, right? Because the one that you had talked
Fingers
about,
crossed.
these guys at the budget meetings are gone. Right? You
The
have new ones.
hybrid is definitely
The
not,
hybrid.
because I didn't give them a letter of intent because I was still trying to make,
Yeah. So, doesn't mean it's gone for good, it just means that this particular one
Yep.
is gone.
Any thought of the hybrid, any more opportunities potentially there?
Everything that's a hybrid or electric is on the wait order list. There's not, I've looked even into the Dodge. Dodge doesn't really have a lot of hybrids out there, but they're coming out with some hybrid vehicles, and they're still the same way on the waiting list. The Trailblazer that we talked about in the meeting, Whiteman does have one, but it's again in that high dollar range. It's not able to be used underneath the Sourcewell contract where you can get it a little bit cheaper, and they have no way to hook up any lights or anything to it because it's never been asked of them to even consider at this point. So that's half the reason why some of these electric vehicles that are out there that may be cheaper, it's just the nuances of being able to work out of that vehicle, put the lights in it, the radios in it, the equipment that we need, and to be able to carry the personnel, which is really the biggest hurdle that we have with that equipment. So I'm not opposed to it because I've got one, but I do a lot of research, and that's one thing my wife gets on me when we go on vacation or anything else that we purchase is I'm a cheap guy, but you know, I do my research to make sure that it's right, and sometimes I go too cheap, but you know, that's what you try to do to make a budget work. And I have done a lot of research in this regard to make sure that it meets our standard, it meets the citizens' standards.
I think it kind of points back to that we have not put together a fleet policy, and that's something that we really need to do.
And that is one of the requirements that they ask you to do as far as the municipality goes, that you create a policy of how you're going to project yourself forward, even with the bigger vehicles, that they're going to be asking us to purchase by that time period too.
So okay, I think I'm.
Is that something the sustainability committee is working on? Didn't we do an inventory?
We were.
It's part of the Climate Smart Communities Task Force, and we're just kind of have not made progress on that because we've been focusing on the inventories.
There's a lot of new grants out there too for hooking up electrical charging stations, just so other people who have cars like myself and yourself, they can come and charge anywhere in the city, and they're giving grants left and right for that.
Yeah,
we already have, but they're even asking people to put even more because they're so minimal right now.
Maybe that's the thought going building our infrastructure at our places of, you know, our firehouses and our, you know, places like that where we're going to need to have that infrastructure in place and start tweaking up for at least.
Is there much grant money for fast, like you would think that the police and fire department in particular
Yep.
would want, without me, I don't have the knowledge, I don't own an electric vehicle.
Looking at what I saw today, they are actually giving grants for actually units that can charge a whole fire truck, which is like 480 volts, which is crazy amount of energy that you would need to keep an engine charged. But they're giving funding for that to get that out.
So there is money for fast
And she
charging.
just threw out another endeavor to make it more feasible for people to get in cities to
Regardless
do
of what
it.
we decide here, those are things that we should be working on right away. I think that's as
So
important as
we need to
windows.
build our infrastructure. I mean, that's one of the problems we, you know, hear all the time. You have these mandates, but the infrastructure is not there to accommodate it, and at some point in time, we're gonna be there, and if we don't plan ahead for it, we're gonna be in the same situation, and we really
We don't know
can't.
the grant money's gonna last.
Right. And that includes signage, you know, telling people where it is and everything else that's in all that whole package.
We are reducing our fleet though. I mean, we have been replacing some of our vehicles, like in building and codes.
Yeah.
We've been putting charging stations around, so we are making progress towards that.
And there's another vehicle, like we just talked about, the fire prevention officer's vehicle right now. In the next 5 years, that's gonna need to be replaced. So there's an opportunity looking forward that we know that we can probably utilize that particular vehicle to purchase a full electric vehicle and work in that way as well. So,
So what shocked me about that in our conversation today, would you explain to the council, so in that way, when I saw it, you could actually, if you were to only use it for the building inspection, for PJ or John, or the firefighter who's trained in code enforcement.
Yep.
If you were only gonna use that vehicle for that, and you didn't need to put lights on it,
Yep.
you could buy a small electric vehicle, almost identical to the
Ford
to the ones
Mustang
they have
I have.
for building
Yep.
codes, and get a charger, and you'd be all set.
Yep.
But what I didn't know is in that vehicle, then you couldn't use it. So if you were to buy a gas powered, a regular vehicle, right here, you've got a price for what kind of vehicle is it? for gas?
it is pretty much piggybacking off of what the police department purchases, the Interceptor. And they're fully loaded with the lights and everything else that
So
goes
you
with
would-
that.
So that Interceptor is more of like an SUV?
SUV.
Okay,
Yep.
so you would buy an SUV if you had your druthers.
Yep.
And you've given us a price for that.
Yep.
And if you did that, you'd also equip it with lights, even though John Pagano and the building inspection people would never do it.
Right.
But you'd add another 30% use of that vehicle. Why? What
By
would
the
you
fire
use?
investigators. If I give the fire officer vehicle, the Tahoe, to somebody to go to a class, whether it be in Montour or Utica out to the academy, that vehicle now also becomes my vehicle because it's kind of dressed up exactly like the Tahoe is on a smaller versions. The fire investigators that go out into the county and do fire investigator work for structure fires, they utilize that vehicle. So again, utilizing resources for more than one use. Where if I got, right now, I think I gave you a price for what it would be to dress out the Councilwoman Gooden. You're looking at it, I think, down there, that what it would cost for the Mustang, which is exactly what I have.
An electric vehicle.
Electric vehicle. The nuance of that is I wouldn't be able to dress it out to use an emergency use. It's basically a sedan hatchback. And so trying to utilize that and put equipment and firemen inside of a sedan makes it almost like a clown car, if you will, and doesn't utilize the money quite fairly, if you will. So that's why some of the things that I've done and put into place are the reasons why, and it's worked for history, as you've said, Councilman Landry, that many of the departments do. And I did look for access to, if there are other things out there, pictures, diagrams, whatever I could use to, I'm willing to do, but it's just not out there right now, so.
Chief, I'm a little confused. So on this vehicle, there will be no light?
There will, if you allow me to purchase the one that is the police interceptor, the gas one. Currently, the other option that I gave you that they have currently right now is that the Mustang Mach, all-electric car.
That wouldn't have?
That wouldn't have.
Couldn't it be added to it?
It could, and the price is.
Same as what it would be to put it on?
It's actually a little bit less than what the purchase for a fully loaded vehicle is, but then you lose the capability of it being used for multiple services. I couldn't utilize it, the fire investigator couldn't use it because they could use it, but it just wouldn't be dressed.
But this vehicle probably most of the time is gonna be driven by an active duty firefighter, correct?
Correct.
Who,
Yep.
then if we have a fire on the west side of town and he's doing an inspection on the east side of town, it's gotta get to the west side of town.
Correct.
So it's gotta have a little bit.
Correct.
So, did you look at, so what about the pickup for the second vehicle? Why wouldn't we look at the pickup for the second vehicle?
You could, but your timetable ends up being,
But we're dealing with it now, right?
Yep.
Without either vehicle, right?
we are. And we're trying not to get that way because we have a lot of things going on next year. We
But
have,
if we went with one vehicle now, you have an extra vehicle that you
that
don't
helps.
have before.
It does help.
But-
And then I can also get the fire prevention officer's car that has some issues with it now would force me to get it fixed until it makes it to that point. So it's definitely doable, not saying it's
I mean,
not.
you would still meet the obligation, you could still flip them back and forth.
Correct.
To meet the obligation.
But-
But my thought, my, you know, thinking about baby steps here is like, why wouldn't we, we're dealing with no cars and you're making it work
Yep.
now. Where if we go with a gas vehicle, we've added one almost immediately, and then we can push out till next year an electric vehicle.
Even if we got a hybrid. So for me, if it was my idea to purchase, I wouldn't go with the Lightning. Too much money to use because, yeah, I also have a lot of things that I still need to do out of the ARPA funding. So utilizing $24,000 extra to purchase a electric vehicle takes away that money that I need to do things in the building.
I guess-
If you choose one vehicle, you choose the Tahoe, correct?
Yes,
For fire department.
moving forward.
Okay.
And then the second one, I'm open to doing what we need. The hybrid would be available next year as well. So we could purchase that at a cheaper rate, which is only $2,000 more than what you see currently sitting right here.
I mean, baby steps. I mean, that's how I look at this. If we can, I mean, we're adding the vehicle that you didn't have
Yep.
now, and you were making it
The other
without
one,
any
you get in
vehicles.
the electric or hybrid, you don't have
Correct.
to, not nerve, you know it's gonna take you to
Yep.
the middle of the.
And I
next
know what
summer
it takes to
anyway.
order. Yep.
And
Look at both and
we
present
will
the
be able to
council what you
continue to
find.
utilize the ARPA funds.
Yeah.
Right.
Because it will be before the end of 2024.
Well, you can, we're gonna issue a purchase order long before that.
Right, right.
So this is a change in plan, but as long as you all agree with the thinking that is coming out of this, then we could literally bring it from the floor for one of those vehicles. I don't know which, so I'm a little confused, but whatever it is, if you decide it, then you postpone the electric vehicle, you get to research it, you know you've got yourself a little time. You could bring back the council a separate thing to approve an electric vehicle that meets one of those two needs. And maybe both. You spend more, but it beats both needs. It could be an operating thing and it's an electric vehicle. So it might be worth $20,000 more. But you're now going one movement towards green energy and you're gonna work on your infrastructure.
Right, that's the other
And
thing we
you
gotta.
bought yourself one gas vehicle that works for all things. Is the council, I'm not trying to sell you anything, are you all comfortable with that thinking?
Well, in order to Chevrolet, how
Yes,
many
sir.
vehicles like the one you want to purchase are there now?
Mhm.
I don't know. In other words, we'd have to get you a purchase agreement and then go ahead and do it.
Correct.
So, I don't know if there's one right now.
They're holding it right now, that particular vehicle.
That's the one though, I think that you've agreed, as That, so
Right.
that,
Yeah.
so you might make a resolution, and I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but please speak up, Councilwoman Palmer, or Lappin, to it. So you're talking about a resolution to buy the Tahoe, a gas vehicle that you can use for both, as a chief's vehicle, a command center, and also for building inspections between now and then. You could use it for everything.
Yep.
And then you postpone a vote and you come back to the council with an electric vehicle purchase to be used at ARPA money. It's gonna be more expensive than a small electric, just for building and codes, but you could use it again for multiple things.
So the resolution here.
Would have to be amended to just the
To
one
increase
vehicle.
revenue line by 68,815 and increase the expense line by the same amount for the purchase of the chief's vehicle, which is the Chevy Tahoe.
And then postpone all the other until you come back with us with an electric vehicle and a fast charging thing and the cost of that we'll consider pulling out of ARPA. We know it will be more money, but it'll be it'll be a pretty, actually, a significant step towards both our building our infrastructure and moving towards green purchases on that vehicle.
I'll make that move.
Go ahead.
It's a resolution to increase revenue line A 009999-4089 ARPA by $68,815 and increase expense line A23410-2300 motor vehicle equipment by $68,815 for the purchase of the chief's vehicle, which is the 2023 Chevrolet Tahoe.
So before you make a motion, please.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that motion, but just in terms of the second vehicle, I feel like $24,000 is a huge difference, and it sounds like maybe you're gonna do some research and see if we can find other alternatives. But I think maybe we need to put this on our radar to have either our economic development team, community development team, or the sustainability committee look for what are the funding sources, maybe reach out to our state representatives, because if this is a mandate, I mean, we can't afford to be spending $24,000 more on all of our vehicles, as much as we would like to move forward.
I can just say, to that end, the DRI position, we spent 20% more for a WBE business because of state mandates.
Right.
Using the DRI funds, you're saying?
And we just voted on it today.
Yeah.
I can,
So I think his point's well taken, but it's not against yours at all. I think, would you all agree that that's exactly what we should do?
and I can provide that when I send back the
Do research, we
information.
should look for funding and find out how other people are meeting this mandate. You also might find, right now, there's no hybrid on the market, but there might be, and the council you could bring it back to whatever committee. I'm sure that, just because Jeff also has the knowledge of electric vehicles, but Jeff and Pat we could speak to our funding sources about finding money for that.
A community I would reach out to is the city of Schenectady, because the mayor has made the edict that they are not going to purchase any more gas-powered vehicles.
And they actually just got a huge grant from doing all the power sources and the electric charging
Kind of
stations.
go
So,
along with Councilman Palmer and Councilman Lappin's idea about the plan. Maybe we do the plan right then, right? I think that we should make that kind of aspirational statement. To
And
not
I'll
buy
send
another
back.
gas vehicle, and then try to find grant money to help us make that and make sure we've got the infrastructure to support it. I don't think anybody's has any concern about that as a plan. And you bringing back through whatever committee that do. And you probably got to do it though within the next few months, because you want to get this done by the end of next year, right? You're getting one right away, but the other you're going to work with.
that if I get the order in now, we don't take a chance of losing that when everything's said and done and closed up.
And I'll open it back up. Any other thoughts or questions? Are you all okay with this? Because if you're not, I think because of the way this is done, you probably need 100% approval on this.
No, because it was just.
It's just an amendment to it, okay.
And it's on the agenda, so.
It's on the agenda, you've amended it to actually decrease funding.
I don't want to I want to make sure everybody who has something to say is.
All we're approving is the first vehicle purchase. And
That's
then we're
correct.
just saying we're gonna do more research for the second one. That's
That's right.
fine, yeah.
Is that okay?
The
Yeah.
resolution is for the purchase,
Yeah.
not to do more research.
No, I know,
Yeah, agreed.
Emily, do you have a second on the Councilman Landry's motion?
Landry,
Councilman Landry made a motion to go to roll call vote. Do we have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Councilman Large.
Yes.
Councilman Donahue.
Yes.
Councilman Landry.
Yes.
Councilman Moore.
Yes.
Councilman Lidle.
Yes.
And Councilman Debbie. Yes.
Izzy, I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thank you for listening, and I will give you that information. I found out a lot of stuff today in the past couple of days, actually, of getting funding for everything that's on the market right now that it's being mandated. She's giving grants for it, so I'll print that out for you and get that to you as quick as I can. I don't know who's handling that, who's in charge of that.
Yeah.
I'll send in the PO real quick.
Send it to Ed because
Send it
Ed's
to
chairman of the sustainability.
Okay, I'll do that, and I'll send it a lot of
Yeah, just
links
send
and
it
whatnot for
to
you.
everybody in the council.
I can do that too.
Can't hurt.
Yep.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Have a good evening.
Thank you, Chief. Happy Chief.
No, 100%.
Old business, Councilman Clark.
Yes, I would like to schedule one last budget meeting. We need to wrap up one item. I'd like to do it either the 16th or the 20th. That will give us time to print the budget and have it available for viewing before our public hearing. So I would like to do it either the 16th or the 20th at 5:45. If people are available either day, it doesn't really matter.
Pick one day.
16th,
so either Thursday or Monday.
the Thursday or Monday.
This Thursday or next Monday?
This Thursday is pretty quick turnaround.
Yeah.
Thursday.
Maybe.
What time did you say, 5:45?
5:45.
5:45.
Or we can do it later, I don't care.
Like 16th or 20th?
It doesn't matter, we can do it later or,
I can do the 20th at 5:45.
Okay.
we just have one matter to wrap up. We started that discussion, we had some,
You don't use this room.
no.
No.
Zoning board of appeals.
6 p.m. okay?
Is 6 fine, are you back?
Yeah, I'm back by 5:45.
Then you're not, yeah. So say 6.
6 in the mayor's conference room on the 20th.
Awesome.
We can
Well-
crack the window if we need to.
Yeah, that's it. Absolutely.
I only have Monday off.
Okay.
I really didn't want to schedule.
Well, is there another
Is
time?
Monday,
That's the only day I have
last day you'd want to do is Wednesday,
off.
because
I can do it.
you can.
Well, Wednesday's the day before Thanksgiving
Oh,
and I
right.
don't know
I
if people.
can't do Wednesday.
Yeah, so,
You never know if we could.
Okay, the 20th, I'll
Thank you, Mary.
20th, 6 o'clock.
Yes.
Hey, you know what? At one point, we did have a budget meeting scheduled on that day too. Isn't that fun?
all right, 6 o'clock on the 20th. At that point in time, we'll go into executive session and finish our, 6 o'clock, and we'll finish our business.
Old business, Councilman Donahue.
Nothing is done.
Councilman Landry.
Yeah, I'd just like to make a comment here. Back in October, Glens Falls Police Department, in coordination with Warren County Sheriff's Department, and Glens Falls Fire Department conducted a lockdown drill at the Glens Falls Junior Senior High School. In today's world, being ready to handle an unspeakable event in one of our schools, businesses, or places of gathering is a must, and our public safety agencies are making sure that we're always ready to respond if necessary. Remember, the people of Lewiston, Maine, and I have relatives who live there, thought it could never happen in their community, in an area just our size. So I'd like to commend those agencies for taking that action.
Thank you. Old business, Councilman
I have
Councilman Landry.
Nothing.
Councilwoman Chris. New business, Councilman Clark.
I have no new business.
Councilman Dempsey.
Nothing this time.
Councilman Lamb.
Thank you. Was happy to see that our own Jimmer Fredette will be playing in the Olympics in the 3-on-3 competition. It's nice to have our homegrown basketball stars making note of our community as they travel around the world. Another thing I'd like to make mention is I wish Barry Melrose the best as he battles some health issues. From Adirondack Red Wing player to coach to ESPN star, Barry always provided our community with the best in hockey. And he too placed the city of Glens Falls on the hockey map. Lastly, and Diana, I'll send you an email that I received tonight on this because it actually came from a constituent out from the board who was at a recent school board meeting. I received quite a few calls from constituents regarding the recent voting that was held in 3 of our local schools, Jackson Heights, Abraham Wing, and Sanford Street School. Their concern was how the elaborate and functional security of our schools is breached when voting is allowed in our schools. I personally was able to walk through Jackson Heights School unquestioned when I went to vote. I walked in, I voted. There was a door open with a sign that said restroom. I just kind of looked out there, I was curious where the restroom was, and the restroom was down the hall around the corner. So you could basically walk into the gym, walk out that door, and walk in our schools. I've given this item to the city county supervisors. I'd like to be honest with you, I've only talked to 2 of them, but I'm going to contact them all. I think this item needs to be discussed on a county level. I think that if the county is going to ask the city, and in Warren County, basically 3 schools in the city, all of the Queensbury schools, I apologize, it's either North Warren or Johnsburg, do have voting in their schools. But I think that either other options have to be looked at. I know that the Saratoga Springs School District, because they have voting in their schools, closed on voting days. And I'm also very concerned about upcoming presidential elections after what happened the last time, that they may be more contentious than they were the last time. So I know there was a discussion here at I believe our last meeting in regards to voting, that you could go to any voting place in the city and vote. And that actually was allowed in this past election, which my guess would be they were piloting to be able to be used in future elections.
It was also in Queensbury.
That they did that as well, right? That we have places that other than the schools, Phil Creed, Church of the Messiah, I don't think there's any others. But I think that our county supervisors should take this issue and take a look at it and find out what the Board of Elections will do to either make the schools secure if you're going to allow voting, and we're probably going to have, could have primaries as early as May or June, and definitely going to have earlier than that.
Yeah, it's moved up.
Is it into March?
It's into March.
It's into March. All right, but anyways, I've spoken only because I happened to come upon both of them, Supervisor Driscoll and Supervisor Bruno. But I would ask the other representatives of the other wards to contact their county supervisors, because I think an open discussion on this should be had. That's all.
I don't have any new business, but I think that's a really good point that you're raising, and considering all of the investment in security in the schools and the resource officers, it seems like a big oversight and vulnerability. Did you contact the school district?
Yeah, the school district, and let me just disclose that my daughter sits on the school board.
Yeah.
The school district receives some calls on it. The school district feels that they have nothing to say about it. They were told by the County Board of Elections when they inquired that the facility had to have handicap accessibility, had to have bathrooms, and she obviously had the number wrong, but it said it must be able to hold up to 1,000 people. Well, none of those auditoriums will hold 1,000 people if you had to. And so they were considering the possibility of closing, as Saratoga did in this last election. But as Ben just said, you could be closing the schools in March to do it, and you could be closing the schools in November. And if you've got an election for, say, school boards, you could have 3 in any one year.
Yeah, like there could be a special election
Sure.
for the school for,
Right.
you know, like we had the lights was in December a couple of years ago.
Listen, we've gone, I don't want to cause anything that would restrict voting, but we're a small community. We had more voting places in the past than we have now. They've scaled that down big time.
Had them in the fire station.
Yeah, we had them in the fire station. We just recently had early voting in City Hall. So I think it's a discussion that we should have. We should have it sooner than later. And like I say, I think this is an item that should be given to our county supervisors to engage the Board of Elections.
Security plan is not an outrageous request.
Well, and I remember us, there was voting at the Murray Street Playground. I mean, we have facilities to.
You used to be sad.
Right, exactly. And there are bathrooms there.
Again, I just don't think they're thinking about security, they're thinking about people working. And if they did think about it, I don't think it would be, it shouldn't be hard to address.
Right, and I mean, it's worth re-examining. I mean, we had, when I was on the Fifth Ward Council, I had that discussion with some of the faculty at Big Cross, and we were able to address it because they were very concerned about the fact people were just, coming in and out without any ability, and there was many access points to get into the school from that gymnasium. And no one's really paying attention. They're more focused on people voting, which they should be, So it's a concern.
Councilman Left? Councilman Left? Under new business, I just wanted to, Thanksgiving morning is Open Doors fundraiser race.
You wear the turkey costume?
If Councilman Lappin runs it, I'm gonna be an hour behind him, but,
Where can we all go see this?
You stop now, okay, stop.
I know that you you set off the Goblin Gallop.
Yeah.
But I came in first place for the.
For your age group?
First place for councilman.
Oh, very good, very good. Well, I think your record in that way is going to be safe.
I was in fourth place.
I walked half of the gauntlet. I walked half of the thing and then let my wife walk the second half because it was 2 runs around the block. I said, one's fine. So I couldn't even walk that whole 5K. Or I didn't want to. So anyway, it just will be there and I'm going to make my kids come. So anybody wants to join us, that'd be great.
I've done the Follow Roll a couple times, and it's a great way to start Thanksgiving when you're going to eat a ton of food later. But I didn't run it, I walked it, and that's perfectly fine.
Yeah, that's totally allowed.
Speaking of that, there's great events going on. We've got the Hometown Thanksgiving, that's where we're going to be. So, we're very blessed, to live in a community that supports organizations like Open Door Mission and the Hometown Thanksgiving organization. We're a small community, but we do big things, so it's really awesome.
With that, I believe I would accept the public comment. Thank you. I was going to go right by it.
Peter, you got anything to say?
Anybody? Peter out there? Anybody out there? Nothing? How about a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? We are adjourned. Thank you.